Hello volunteers, my name is Saul Flores. I am the high school and college program coordinator. I work with the students that have gone through this summer program now into the high school and college program. So it is so exciting to know that you're working with our students. Today, Irving and I are going to be presenting diversity and the portrait of a typical student. We're going to be talking about what students look like, what you should look forward. I know that for some of you, the cultural crowd, what students look like, what you should look forward. I know that for some of you, the cultural, cross-cultural connection will be important. So we just want to educate you a little bit on that. First, we're going to watch a quick video of what some of our students live every day in school. So please pay attention to this video, try to connect with the emotions of the student and hear the background noise that often they're listening to.
Hi Mom, it's me. I got in trouble again at school today.
Hi, this is Miss Jones again. I'm finding your son very disruptive in class, more so than other students.
I feel like the teacher doesn't like me. Other kids do bad things, but they don't get in trouble.
He's defiant and shows a real lack of respect for any structure or authority.
I hate school because the teachers are always mean to me and I don't feel like I'm learning anything.
I'm really concerned about his behavior.
I'm always getting in trouble for what I didn't do.
We're going to have to adopt a zero-tolerance policy, young man.
School keeps calling my mother and she gets really mad at me.
What is going on? You'd better
I
explain.
feel like the whole world is just turned up against me and doesn't like me anymore.
There are days I get up and I just decide I'm not going to school.
And we go to the park, like everybody's always telling me I'm not worth anything, so what's the point of trying?
I know the cops are watching us, but we just hope we don't get caught.
Your son's absences are a problem. They will definitely affect his grade point average.
I don't feel safe in my class anymore.
Should I assume you're unprepared again today?
I would always eventually get picked on by the teacher. He makes examples of me.
I feel really singled out, and I just try to avoid people because every time I look, somebody's always talking about me. Oh, she's always getting in trouble.
But I started fighting more because nobody wants to hang out around a troublemaker. The only time I have real friends is when I'm on the block. So that's where I'll stay.
I'm sure you understand we take our discipline policies very seriously here at the school. What are we going to do about your son?
So next, what is unconscious bias? We all are born with this desire to connect with those that we feel safe with. So the first connection we do is to our parents. We start recognizing the voice of our mother, the voice of our father, and we feel comfortable and we feel safe. When we hear somebody else that is different, when we see somebody else that is different, then we all immediately use some caution. We become dependent or connected to the idea that if it's somebody that we know, then we're safe. If it's somebody that we don't know, then we don't know if we're safe. That is just something natural to all of us humans. But something that is important for us to recognize is that sometimes we continue to do this and we portray this fear towards others or fear towards the unknown as we become adults, even when we are in control. So this is something that as volunteers we want to be aware about when we find something different in our students. So let me read really quick what it says right. Unconscious biases are social stereotypes about certain groups of people that individuals form outside of their own conscious awareness. Sometimes because the kid speaks differently, or because he's speaking a different language, or because they're acting differently to what the people that we know acts, we think is wrong. Or we might tend to think, are they saying something wrong? Are they saying something about me? Are they using their language to trash talk the teacher? And that's just something we want to be aware of, that it doesn't mean always when a student is using a different language or behaving in a different way that they are doing something wrong, that they're unsafe. A lot of times what is happening is it's a perception we never explored, and today we're going to be seeing a lot of those things. Before we go into who our children are and how to react to them, let's just really quick take a look at what the Bible says about cross-cultural and about people that are different than us. So in one of the books of the Bible, Revelation, we find the last picture of what Jesus Christ came to do in this world. He comes here to say, I'm bringing everybody into the house of my Father. I want to invite every single person. And this is what John sees in heaven when he sees the vision of what is happening in heaven for us. After this, I looked, and there before me was a great multitude that no one could count, from every nation, tribe, people, and language, standing before the throne and before the Lamb. They were wearing white robes and were holding palm branches in their hands, and they cried out in a loud voice, "Salvation belongs to our God, who sits in the throne, and to the Lamb," which you know is Jesus Christ, who came and died for our sins. So I just want us to think for a minute about this. Jesus Christ comes to earth to sacrifice himself as a lamb, so everybody from every nation, every tribe, every people group, and every language can get access to his Father, and is there rejoicing and enjoying the presence of God. I want us to remember that that is a time that we all are desiring, and we're desiring heaven with all these people, with people who speak different languages, from different tribes, from every single nation. That is where we want to be eventually. That is our heaven. So what we get during the summer is to explore just a little taste of what it will be to connect with other people. Of course, in heaven, we're all going to be perfect. Hopefully, we'll all speak Spanish. I'm just kidding. Whatever language God speaks, we'll speak. We'll understand each other perfectly because we'll be pure. We're not there yet, but we are all learning how to get there. We're learning to get closer to God. How does diversity look at our program? Let me show you really quick. So here are some of the values that we have decided as a church that apply to our Puente del Pueblo program. We value diversity, knowing that God values diversity, that the kingdom of God is an invitation to every single human around the world to come and be part of his kingdom. We also strive to continually develop cultural competence. Again, we're not in heaven yet. We're not perfect. I might get too loud. I might say things the wrong way. You might not get my accent all the time, but I'm trying for you to understand me. And I just hope, and I want to invite you, that you try the same thing. You try to embrace the culture of our children. That you try to understand why do they talk like they talk? Why do they behave like they behave? Because we all continually developing our cultural competence. We also seek to promote justice for those that we serve. The reality and what we find in this, in any other country, I grew up most of my life in Mexico, and I found that when foreigners came to Mexico, especially Mexico City where I grew, and the majority of us were Mexican who spoke Spanish, we had this tendency to say, well, if you don't speak Spanish, then sorry for you, you know? If you don't understand how to get in the metro or the train, the fast train, then too bad for you. If you don't know how to drive through our crowded streets, then too bad for you, because I know how to do it. And that is a little bit of an unjust and unfair system, you know, where whoever is the strongest takes more advantage of the system. That is not what God has for us. So as an organization, Puente strives to find justice for all. and that includes our students, that includes our families. We want them to have access to the things that we all have access. In this case, in this summer, it's education, it's English, it's arts, it's a life of educational fulfillment. So I want to invite you with us to explore that. I'm going to give some time to Irving, and he's going to explain a few more things for you.
Morning, volunteers, or afternoon if you're watching this later on. My name is Irving Ruiz. I am the middle school program coordinator, and Saul and I are just very excited to be able to kind of speak with you about what our program looks like, what we strive for, in the way that we serve our students and the various families that we have. So before we get to a little bit more information about our students and our families, let's talk about West Chicago for a little bit. So West Chicago has always kind of been an immigrant city. So if we look back in the history books, we're able to find various different waves of just moving into the city and back into the suburbs throughout our history. So we've had a large number of waves of immigrants that have come to the United States and have settled into large cities, and then eventually have moved out into suburbs and created kind of their own little pockets of their own little people. So we have had waves of immigrants from the English, the Irish, Germans, and second to recently, Mexican immigrants, right? Followed by our Asian and African refugees that we have coming from various different countries in Africa, and as well from various different Southeast Asian countries. So that's kind of where we are right now currently, and just why we tend to see a lot of diversity continuing to grow here in West Chicago, but also why we have such a large Hispanic population here that we're serving, that are Spanish speaking. So this is kind of the demographics and the breakdown of our student body that we have and that we're currently serving here at Puente. So we have in the district of West Chicago, we have 4,530 students, and this is kind of a mixture. As you can tell, our orange line here is 80% Hispanic. So with the second biggest population being Caucasian students, third being African American students, Asian students, and then a mixture of other students. So the majority of the students that we do serve here at Puente del Pueblo are Hispanic students. So predominantly, mostly Mexican students coming from Mexican immigrant families. So that's kind of the biggest population that you will be able to see here. You also will see a couple like African refugees, Southeast Asian refugees. We'll see also even some Caucasian students that are from Europe as well, like places like Ukraine, the Czech Republic. So though we definitely have a good amount of diversity here in our program. So the population that we serve here at Puente, like I mentioned before, is predominantly Hispanic and Latinos. So a lot of our families are coming from the Mexican regions, so from various different states in Mexico, and they do come with an established cultural background. So because of just like Catholicism and its huge impact from just the various points in history, we have a lot of parents that practice the Catholic faith. And even when it comes to various different events, they make sure that their children are going to their catechism classes, they're doing their first communion, getting baptized, their confirmation. So there's definitely a sense of pride connected to their Catholicism. And at times that even has given them some sort of suspicion towards evangelicals. So if you're able to talk to some of our staff who have been around Puente since it has begun, it definitely takes a good amount of relationship and rapport that you want to build with these families for them to really give you some trust. And we have had a lot of families come to faith in just the relationship that they've grown with us, and also have just come to church just from an invitation, where if 10 years ago when Puente first started, these things probably may have not have happened. So it's definitely one of those big things where, although there is a difference in religion, there definitely is awesome opportunity for there to be a lot of rapport in the way that families begin to trust not only just our organization, but also the individual people that work for our organization and the volunteers as well. So for a lot of our families, a foreign language is their primary language, and a lot of the languages that are spoken here are predominantly Spanish, but we also have some Arabic, Burmese, some Russian, some Ukrainian. So it's definitely a big, diverse amount of languages. So it would not be surprising if a lot of our students are bilingual in predominantly Spanish, but also in a different language. And for some students, with just the immersion of our program, some students who may be an African refugee from Sudan might even pick up some Spanish from their peers in the various different classrooms. So we do have immigrant families. So a lot of our students could be first generation students here in America. So their parents came to the United States to find some sort of job opportunities, a better life than they had back in their home country. So topics of immigration for some of our students and our families are a sensitive topic. So we definitely want to be respectful of that. We do not deny any student services or participation for our program based on any sort of legal status. So we definitely encourage all our students and all our families to participate within our program. And I mean, our families are pretty big on average, so we have about 2 to 4 students in our family, and some families just love to be able to have that big family unit where we have mom, dad, siblings, we have the grandmother, the grandfather living at home. There's definitely a lot of like family cohesion within a lot of our families, especially our Hispanic families. So do not be surprised if we have 2 students that are from the same family within the same program or cross programs, or we might even have some students who are in elementary, middle school, and in our high school program. So some of our students are very well known in their families. We have hardworking parents. So like I mentioned earlier, our parents that have immigrated to the United States have come here for better opportunities. So do not be surprised if some of your students share that their parents are working every single day this entire summer or throughout the school year, that are working from sunrise to sunset. So it is a reality for some of our parents, and that's not something that we take lightly. We know that our parents are super hardworking, and you'll notice that a lot of our students tend to just be very prideful in the hardworking status that their parents have and all the things that their parents are able to get them through their hard work. So they definitely take a lot of value into a lot of the things that they own, but that also depends on just kind of their type of employment, right? So some of our families may come from a lower income, and although, as I mentioned, they may be working long hours, the pay may not be as great as comparable to those long hours that they are working. So we do have families who are struggling in regards to paying their rent on time, paying for certain bills, paying for school fees, or even for the parents themselves, even some sort of medical attention in regards to caring for any types of medications that they might need to improve their health. So we definitely want to be cautious of that. And then in regards to health, public aid, so a lot of our students do receive the public aid insurance from the state of Illinois. So this basically just means that our students, because they are born in the United States, have access to free healthcare, which is definitely a big burden that's taken off of the shoulders of our parents, and they're able to get the sort of assistance that they do require for any types of emergency, so they aren't stuck with a very heavy and lengthy hospital bill. Some of our students as well have LEPs and IEPs, so individual education plans, and then learning specific difficulties or English language learners. So we will know that, and we will share that type of information with you in regards to a specific way that a student may learn in the classroom, a specific way that curriculum is orchestrated for that student, providing just a positive environment for that student to be able to learn and to be able to grow and to not feel excluded from our program. So even though we do ask parents to disclose that information to us, we definitely do it in a way that we want to make sure that we're an asset to that student and not a barrier that's an additional thing for that student in regards to academic opportunities. So with families, some of our families might be moving consistently. So there's a bunch of major apartment complexes that some of our families tend to just kind of bounce from. So it goes from one place like the Timberlake apartments to the Main Park apartments to the Aspen apartments to the Riverwood apartments and just the various different apartment complexes in the area. And a lot of times it's because the first month is free, and that's a huge advantage for some of our parents to be able to find a different place to live. And although we have had parents move from various different apartment complexes and have gone to different areas, they do their best to do what they can to make sure that their students are still enrolled in our program. That's the type of impact that Puente has had in the community, where parents really trust our program and make sure that they do what they have to do to make sure that their children are attending. So even though we have families in Main Park and Timberlake that we predominantly serve, we do occasionally have the occasional family who does live off-site and does live in a house near the middle school or the high school or the other elementary schools. We also want to keep in mind trauma, and trauma is a very sensitive topic, especially for any of our refugee families, any of our immigrant families. We are aware that some of our families who have come from war-stricken countries, some of our students may have seen very serious incidents where involving very serious violent acts on other people. So we definitely want to be respectful and aware of how we orchestrate ourselves, and also are providing that environment for the classroom for that child to feel safe. So we definitely want to be and continue to grow into being trauma informed and making sure that we have the right tools to be able to be this place for that student to feel safe and not have to have these types of flashbacks or memories where they're reverting back to the terrible incidents that have happened in their life. So you, as a volunteer, what can you expect in the classroom, or even if you're volunteering within our ESL or our case management, but in the classroom, these are the types of things that you can expect. Noise level. So, as a Hispanic myself, being soft-spoken is not a real thing. So, anywhere you might go, you will find a group of Hispanic people who are very loud. Not to be annoying, but we just like to be loud. So expect that as well with our students, okay? So you might be walking in as your very first day as our volunteer into a classroom, and it might sound like it's chaotic. That might actually just be the normal noise level of just the way that our students are used to talking. And at times, like, lean towards any of the staff members to kind of redirect the students if it is getting a little too loud. But noise level is kind of a really big thing for us to be aware of. Like, that kid's not really yelling, that's just how he speaks. So we just want to be cautious of that and making sure that, like, you might have a student that comes up to you and is like screaming, and it might sound like they're frustrated at you, but really they just might be really full of excitement, right? Relationships. We want to make sure that our relationships with our students are relationships as students. Like, there should be no other like friending of them or anything like that, but also like relationships within the group of our students is also, we want to be cautious of that, because a lot of our students go to school with each other. They might have some drama, they might have some particular like incidents of bullying, incidents of like maybe you or myself said something to that student, and then they hold a grudge on it for the next 2 days. That's just something that we want to take into consideration of just like, we want to definitely grow with our students. We want to be that positive motivator and mentor in their life, but we also want to keep and create those boundaries with our students. Christian Ed, so not all of our students who are participating in our summer program choose to opt into Christian Ed. Majority do. And that's just something that we respect as a decision of the parents or the student. We never try to force a student to forcefully be into our Christian Ed program. So, and when we do have students who are opt out, we do create an activity for them to do while other students are participating in Christian Ed. We do value and we want to respect the views of the students and their families. And like I mentioned earlier, like it does take that relationship that you want to build with families and students to really be able to intentionally share the gospel with them to create a significant change. Importance of material objects, brands, electronics, and entertainment. So remember when I mentioned about parents being really hardworking? So when I mentioned that like low income families is a big situation in which we like try to work with, we have students who like really care about their cell phone, really care about the shoes that they wear, the shirts that they're wearing, the clothes that they wear. Brands and things like that are a huge thing for our students because it's a signal of value and it's a signal of like cost, right? So students basically will really try their best to take care of their things because they know that their parents have had to work really hard for it. And it's a kind of also a sign of social status, right? So be aware of also like we do have families and students who won't come in with an iPhone, won't come in with wearing Nike like gym shoes or Nike athletic shorts or shirts or anything like that. So we definitely want to be aware of that because those signs of status can also be a form of bullying within the classroom where you'll end up finding that some of our students from elementary all the way to high school use it as an advantage to pick on a student who maybe not be able to afford those types of things. So I'm gonna keep it at that, but I'm gonna let Saul kind of take it over from here. Thanks.
Hi again. Sense of humor. I brought you some jokes, but you're not gonna understand them, so we're just gonna skip them. Sense of humor is different in Latino culture. Often we make fun of what is real. So if there is a kid that is overweighted, we might call them el gordito, and which means the fatty, and it's not very nice in English, right? I had to learn this. I'm married to an American woman that was born and raised in the U.S., and I had to learn this, and it was such a conflict, having to understand that her sarcasm was okay and my directness was okay. But sense of humor is different. Often Latinos will make fun of the actual issue instead of beating around the bush. We do beat around the bush when we're trying to do direct communication, but not when we're joking. We're very direct when we're joking. So take their jokes with a grain of salt. If students laugh because somebody fell or because we do want to help our students acculturate and understand that in a work environment, it's not okay laughing of somebody that had an accident, but that is a very common thing in the Latino culture. So we just want to be aware of what is common in their culture. Talking about the future, when you don't know if your future is certain, if things could change and be interrupted and your plans could be shred to tears from one day to the other, often because of your status or because of the loss of the land or because of other things, then you don't always plan all that well for the future. So when you ask kids, especially in elementary and middle school, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they have no idea, or when you ask them, what are your parents doing at the end of the summer? Or is your family planning everything for the next month or next year? You might not hear the answers that you're used to. There might not be a lot of planning and a lot of thinking of the future because the future tends to be so uncertain in their family, in their environment. Another one is food. Food is important to Latinos, and you will have this experience sometimes where you come to the lunchroom and you're watching all the kids come through for their boxes of lunch, and then this one kid opens their bag and has a container and opens the container, and all of a sudden all the room is filled with a really good smell. And all the kids turn around and they say, wow, you brought lunch from home, and it's a mom dish, one of the dishes that mom usually cooks for us. And they're all super excited, and you come closer and you're excited too because the smell is intense and good. And you tell the kid, what is that? And the kid might tell you, well, this is cow tongue, or cow stomach, or pig intestines, or pig feet, or chicken feet. And you might scratch your head and say, is he kidding, or is he trying to play a prank on me, or what is this? And just to find out that it's true, that a lot of our dishes are very different to American dishes. So what do you do in that case? You know, I want to invite you to resist the temptation of saying ew or making a ew face, because that is often a cultural connection to their past, to their family, to what generations and generations have been cooking for a very long time, having feeding their children. And I just want to encourage you to be brave and give it a try. All right, that might be a really good connection with our students. And the last one, I want to address this one: pulling out the race car with the white stuff. When a group of people has been a minority for a long time, and they have felt the weight of those who are the majority saying, well, sorry for you, too bad for you. If you can't do it, then it's your problem. Some of our students, without understanding that you are trying to do discipline, or you're trying to do guidance, or you're trying to teach them a better way of doing math, English, reading, behavior, they might pull the race card and say, wait, you are being racist because you're telling me something contrary to what I want to do. I just want to give you the freedom to say absolutely not. I might not understand your culture completely. I might not understand what you're saying in Spanish, but I'm not being racist when I say you have to change your behavior. You have to do what I'm telling you to do. We all understand that you're here to serve our students, and they need to understand it too. They will understand it too. With time, they will know that you're somebody that cares, and that the color of your skin does not mean anything different from the love of God that you're sharing with them.
Hello again. So here are some of our principles. So we all have power, right? So we have to be able to respect the way that we use our power too. So something as simple as the way that we speak to a student, our appearance, unfortunately the color of our skin, just signifies and radiates power, the amount of power that we have. Myself as the coordinator, I have a specific amount of power that I bring to the program. Saul has a specific amount of power that he brings to his program. So we definitely want to be respectful in the way that we utilize our power, and that we're using it in a respectful manner in regards to how we interact with our students, how we play with our students, and interact with each other as a staff team as well, and as a volunteer team. So we definitely want to be respectful of that. And one of the things that we want to make sure that we're doing is realizing the people that we serve and the resources that we offer tolerate just the discomfort that they might have in respect to like religious education, like Christian ed, or talking about like Jesus, or praying together within certain events that we have, because sometimes people just have few options. So it's kind of one of those things that they tolerate because they believe in the program, they have children that participate in the program. So for us, we see it as a big win when a parent or a father chooses to come in with us during any type of event and they're present. So we definitely want to exhibit our power in the way that we just make sure that we are providing that environment where families and children feel empowered.
That's right. And our families observe us, and they know of that power dynamic, and they know that something that reflects our love is our consistency, and in the overtime testimony that we are showing to them, saying, even when you don't come to church, even when you don't join us for a worship service, we're here to serve you. We're here to love you. And believe me, over the last 10 years, we have seen so many families and Puente families come so much closer in their relationship with God because they have put on the side the power dynamic and embraced Puente as their family. So we just want to invite you to be part of that family, to be aware that we do have that power dynamic, and to use it for the glory of God. And we just want to encourage you to make of this summer a great summer. We'll see you later.
Thanks.